arrests for individuals involved. I will be pressing charges.
A Dalton home that she leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid.
The city of Dalton is spiraling deeper into chaos amid mounting controversies, accusations of financial mismanagement, and relentless political infighting that have transformed township meetings into spectacles resembling reality television drama. At the center of this turmoil is Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor, whose leadership has become the subject of widespread scrutiny. Trustees, community members, and political observers alike are increasingly disillusioned with Henyard's tumultuous reign, marked by erratic decision-making and a theatrical approach to governance. Henyard serves simultaneously as the mayor of Dalton and the supervisor of Thornton Township, making her a polarizing figure. Critics argue that her leadership style fosters division and dysfunction, with many alleging that her administration prioritizes image over substance. Instead of focusing on the community's pressing needs, Henyard has been accused of obsessing over curating a public persona. Among the most glaring issues facing Dalton are mounting economic deficits, persistent allegations of personal financial mismanagement, and an organizational breakdown that has hindered meaningful governance. Her detractors point to extravagant spending, including allegations that taxpayer dollars were used for luxury accommodations, fine dining, and even cosmetic services, as evidence of her self-serving tendencies. These reports have sparked outrage, especially when juxtaposed with Dalton's dire fiscal situation, where the median income is far below the national average. Even in the face of these controversies, Henyard has remained defiant. She has refused to step aside or alter her strategy, instead casting herself as a fearless leader standing firm against powerful political adversaries bent on dismantling her administration. This narrative has found traction among her shrinking base of supporters, who view her as a resilient figure battling entrenched political forces conspiring to oust her. However, for many critics, this portrayal rings hollow. They argue that Henyard's behavior is less about resilience and more about reckless defiance, further alienating the very community she claims to serve. At township meetings, tensions have reached unprecedented levels, with trustees openly clashing with Henyard in increasingly combative exchanges. These meetings, which often devolve into shouting matches, have become emblematic of the dysfunction that defines Henyard's leadership. Critics liken her approach to that of a reality television star, combative, performative, and focused more on creating spectacle than solving problems. Henyard has been accused of condescension and belligerence toward trustees and constituents alike, often wielding her golden microphone, a symbol of her penchant for theatricality, with an air of bravado that underscores her detachment from the struggles of the community. Trustees have been outspoken in their criticisms, with one even likening her leadership style to that of a bully, fostering an atmosphere where open discourse and collaborative governance have become increasingly difficult. Beyond her contentious demeanor, Henyard's administration has faced serious legal and ethical questions, including allegations of misusing public resources. Reports suggest that she directed township funds toward questionable expenditures and used official resources, such as township vehicles, for personal or politically motivated purposes. Notably, there are accusations that Henyard used township vehicles to transport supporters to events, a plan that backfired when mismanagement led to supporters being left stranded. These instances of disorganization and alleged misconduct have only reinforced doubts about her leadership abilities, adding fuel to the fire of public discontent. Henyard's leadership has also been marred by personal financial troubles. Recently, a landlord filed an eviction lawsuit against her, alleging that she failed to pay rent for months and illegally changed the locks to prevent access to the property. This lawsuit mirrors the broader allegations of financial mismanagement and irresponsibility that have dogged her administration. Despite these mounting scandals, Henyard remains undeterred in her pursuit of political power. Rather than addressing the controversies head-on, she has intensified efforts to solidify her position, including announcing her intention to seek re-election as mayor. Her campaign emphasizes themes of perseverance and empowerment, urging her supporters to rally behind her in the face of what she portrays as a coordinated effort to undermine her leadership. However, Henyard's re-election bid is clouded by one of her most glaring controversies yet: the highly publicized skating rink project, which cost millions of dollars and has been widely criticized as a vanity project aimed more at boosting her public profile than addressing the community's pressing needs. The project stands in stark contrast to rumors that Henyard is facing eviction from her residence and defending allegations of hosting lavish, poorly attended events funded by taxpayer money. In addition, Henyard has been accused of misusing government credit cards, including spending exorbitant amounts on luxury furniture, costly travel, and other questionable purchases. In one particularly egregious instance, an investigation revealed that Henyard spent $40,000 in a single day on an online shopping spree, a revelation that only intensified scrutiny of her financial practices. Henyard's tenure has been marked by public meetings that have devolved into chaotic spectacles. These meetings often highlight her inability to unify the board, with trustees openly clashing with her leadership style. One notable incident saw a trustee storm out in frustration, accusing Henyard of steering Dalton toward financial ruin. This claim is not without merit. Under her leadership, the township's general fund has reportedly plummeted from over $1 million to a staggering deficit. The financial mismanagement has reached such an alarming state that federal investigators have begun probing allegations of embezzlement and corruption, further deepening the sense of crisis surrounding her administration. In response to the town's fiscal troubles, Henyard has proposed an audacious plan to return property taxes to residents, a move widely derided as a reckless and impractical vote-buying scheme that fails to address the broader financial woes of the township. Her penchant for dubious expenditures and alleged financial abuse extends beyond the skating rink project, with reports of extravagant parties and an over-reliance on personal security funded by public money further eroding trust in her leadership. At recent town meetings, residents have voiced their dissatisfaction by turning their backs on Henyard as she spoke, a symbolic gesture of frustration that underscores the boiling point of public discontent. Despite the growing chorus of criticism, Henyard remains steadfast, framing herself as the victim of a political conspiracy intent on ousting her from power. She has compared her struggles to those of other polarizing figures in history, invoking a narrative of resilience in the face of adversity. However, her increasingly erratic behavior and failure to address substantive issues have only deepened the divide between her and the community. Promises made during her tenure, including ambitious development projects and community initiatives, have largely fallen flat, leaving residents disillusioned with a pattern of broken commitments. Meanwhile, Henyard's public appearances often underscore her disconnect from the realities facing Dalton's residents. Critics argue that she is more focused on self-preservation than on tackling the mounting crises under her watch. The ongoing federal investigation into allegations of embezzlement and corruption has added a new layer of complexity to Henyard's already embattled leadership. The financial collapse of Thornton Township under her watch has only fueled these accusations, as residents and trustees alike question how funds intended for public services have been squandered. The skating rink project, once touted as a community centerpiece, now stands as a symbol of misplaced priorities and fiscal irresponsibility. Despite the mounting scandals and growing public dissatisfaction, Henyard shows no signs of stepping down. She continues to assert her innocence, claiming that the accusations against her are baseless and politically motivated. This defiance has done little to stem the tide of criticism, as even her most ardent supporters struggle to reconcile her rhetoric with the reality of her actions. The discontent has become so palpable that even those who once championed her leadership are beginning to distance themselves, leaving Henyard increasingly isolated in her defense. As Dalton grapples with the fallout from Henyard's controversial tenure, the question remains: how long can her reign of controversy last? With public dissatisfaction at an all-time high and investigations into her conduct ongoing, the future of Henyard's leadership hangs in the balance. For a town already struggling with economic challenges and a fractured political landscape, her administration has become a lightning rod for frustration and disappointment.
Politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of the vote.
He entered the room expecting a routine municipal supervisor meeting in Thornton Township, a predictable event focused on local issues, community updates, and the usual bureaucratic back and forth. Instead, he was met with a scene that could only be described as a live-action catastrophe, more fitting for a reality show than a township meeting. The focal point of the chaos was Tiffany Henyard, the embattled township supervisor. What was meant to be a standard meeting spiraled into an uncontrollable debacle, leaving attendees bewildered. Trustees, visibly exasperated, lambasted Henyard for bulldozing decisions through without adhering to established procedures, accusing her of fostering an environment of dysfunction and recklessness. Tempers flared, voices were raised, and accusations filled the air, creating a surreal spectacle. This meeting encapsulated the growing controversies and legal troubles that have marked Henyard's leadership. Legal disputes over unpaid rent and allegations of misusing public funds hovered over the event, fueling the tense atmosphere. Despite the barrage of criticism from trustees and residents alike, Henyard remained undeterred, clinging stubbornly to her authority. Her unilateral decisions, often made without consensus, only deepened public frustration, leading many to accuse her of dictatorial behavior. The meeting unfolded like a dramatic display where the audience alternated between outrage and helpless fascination, trapped in the spectacle of a government in disarray. Henyard's tenure has been marked by scandal after scandal, tarnishing her reputation and jeopardizing the future of the township. Allegations of lavish spending, including using public funds for extravagant events and personal indulgences, have painted a grim picture of her leadership. Critics point to a pattern of financial irresponsibility, where township resources are drained to fund grandiose but impractical initiatives, worsening an already precarious financial situation. One of her most contentious proposals, a plan to refund property taxes, has drawn widespread condemnation. While Henyard presents it as a goodwill gesture to the community, critics argue it is a thinly veiled ploy to regain public favor. Experts warn that the plan is financially untenable and could push the township deeper into despair. As the meeting dragged on, frustration shifted into despair. Attendees who had come seeking accountability began questioning how Thornton Township, once a model of community strength, had fallen into such disarray. The tone of the meeting shifted between anger and disbelief as residents expressed dissatisfaction with Henyard's inability to provide clear answers or offer solutions to pressing issues. Accusations of cronyism and governance by Fiat added weight to the criticisms of her leadership. Trustees and community leaders voiced increasing concern over her apparent prioritization of personal gain over public welfare, with one trustee publicly condemning her approach as reckless and authoritarian. The chaotic nature of the meeting highlighted deeper systemic issues that have plagued Henyard's leadership for years. From questionable expenditures on public credit cards to her controversial refusal to pay rent, allegations of misconduct have followed her at every turn. One particularly egregious example of financial mismanagement involved tens of thousands of dollars spent on luxury goods and events, funds that critics argue should have been directed toward pressing community needs. These incidents have become symbols of a broader narrative of neglect and self-interest that has defined her time in office. The growing mistrust between Henyard and the community was palpable in the room. Many residents openly questioned how someone with such a contentious track record could still hold so much power. Calls for accountability echoed through the chamber, with some attendees demanding an immediate shift in leadership. Henyard's attempts to deflect criticism, dismissing her detractors as politically motivated and casting herself as a victim of targeted persecution, seemed to fall on deaf ears. Her consistent refusal to acknowledge mistakes or offer meaningful changes only further alienated those seeking clarity and reassurance. Critics argue that Henyard's leadership represents not just a failure of governance, but also a broader failure of transparency and integrity in public office.
It was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done.
The tension reached a boiling point when a heated exchange erupted between Henyard and one of the trustees. The trustee accused her of deliberately sidestepping protocol to push her agenda, citing a recent decision to reallocate township funds without board approval. The accusation sent shockwaves through the room, prompting audible gasps from residents in attendance. Henyard, visibly frustrated, fired back with a dismissive retort, accusing the trustees of obstructing her efforts to improve the township. Her response, however, only added fuel to the fire, as the room erupted in a cacophony of angry shouts and jeers. The lack of decorum underscored the deep-seated divisions within the township's leadership. Trustees, residents, and community activists openly questioned whether Henyard's administration was even salvageable. Some called for immediate intervention from higher authorities, arguing that the township was in dire need of outside oversight to restore order and accountability. Among the most vocal critics was Trustee Jerry Jones, who labeled Henyard's leadership as an unmitigated disaster. Jones highlighted several instances of alleged mismanagement, including unexplained expenses and delayed payments to township employees. "This isn't leadership," he declared to a round of applause. "This is chaos masquerading as governance." Residents echoed these sentiments, sharing their personal grievances about the township's declining state. From delayed services to unaddressed infrastructure issues, the complaints painted a grim picture of a community struggling to maintain basic functionality. Many residents expressed frustration that their voices were being ignored, with some vowing to organize a petition to have Henyard removed from office. The meeting's chaotic nature and lack of resolution left many attendees feeling disillusioned. Instead of addressing the township's pressing concerns, the event devolved into a public airing of grievances, with little progress made toward actionable solutions. For some, it was a sobering reminder of the challenges facing Thornton Township, a community once held in high regard for its dedication to transparency and public service. As the meeting finally adjourned, the room buzzed with hushed conversations. Residents and trustees alike appeared united in their uncertainty about the township's future. The controversies surrounding Henyard had not only fractured the township's leadership, but also eroded public trust to the point where meaningful reform seemed almost impossible. In the aftermath of the meeting, community leaders began rallying behind a common cause: to restore stability and accountability in Thornton Township. Many recognized that addressing the issues at hand would require more than just a change in leadership. It would necessitate a fundamental shift in how the township conducted its business, prioritizing transparency, fiscal responsibility, and active engagement with its residents. For now, however, the path forward remains uncertain. Thornton Township struggles serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and the critical importance of ethical leadership in public office. Thornton Township's leadership crisis deepens, leaving residents uncertain about the future. Will transparency and accountability prevail, or will division persist? Stay tuned for updates on this developing story.